thanks so much for joining us for this extraordinary expose of station brilliance. If there ever were a station woman who practically obliterated the glass ceiling, it's Ingrid Whitfield. Ingie, as we all call her, worked as commissioner in the island government, where she blazed trails for future generations. She's also worked as a coordinator of the women's desk for just shy of 20 years, and there she dedicated her life to helping women and families. And believe it or not, she still does. And that's just her official resume. There's a whole lot more to Ingie. And although she's had some health issues of late, nothing can curtail the strength of this extraordinary woman. Welcome to Chronicles, Ingie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. So let's talk a little bit first. We'll talk about your career working with government and commissioner and all of that, and blazing trails and obliterating glass ceilings. Let's go back many years to a little bit about where you're from, what part of Statia, and your years growing up.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Aruba. I was born and raised there. And after becoming an adult and moving on to St. Martin, I fell in love and I married. So I'm married into Statia. I'm not station born. But life in
Who would have known, huh? Who would have known? It's just so much part of Statia.
Statia, yeah. I feel more station than Aruba, even though I don't want to give up that feeling for Aruba still. But I feel like I'm a station. Yeah. I'm here now about 50 years, because when I came with Makiba baby. Mm-hmm. So I'm here quite some time. It's a lifetime, and this is my home. This is my home now. But growing up in Aruba was different to growing up here. We had lights. I understand here didn't have lights at a certain time in the night. The lamps goes off, the lights goes off, and lamps goes on. And schooling in Aruba was different to here too. The system was Dutch, and we had to, from the minute that we enter the school gate, speak Dutch until we leave. Even though you're with your sisters and brothers in the same school, you had to speak Dutch. So probably that's why maybe people from Aruba, the Dutch is better than others. We were poor like everybody else, our parents had to work. My mother was a single mother and she had to work. She got married eventually afterwards, but I come from a big family. She had 13 children. In that 13 children, there was one twin, and that's me, and was twin with a boy. My brother, he died before we were born, so I didn't get to grow up with him.
Where do you fit in the 13? 7. So smack in the middle.
It's 7 because 3 of them died, so we grew up at 10, with 10 of us, and I was number 7 in the 10. So, and the 3 was before me, so then I would be number 10 if in the 13. Yeah.
So you had all of those before to look over you?
Yes, there were more girls than boys. We had 5 boys really and 8 girls. And now we grew up with 4 boys and 6 girls.
What was it like growing up with a family this large?
It was nice. It was fun. We were a close-knit family. The only thing I didn't like was wash-up day. The big pots and a lot of dishes to wash up. So I never liked when it was my turn to wash the dishes. But it was fun. We had our little quarrels sometimes, but it was a nice life. It was different. We could play outside. We had no all these games and things what people have today. We didn't have those things. We were glad to get the bicycle wheel and with a stick and run down the road, boys and girls, play marbles. The girls would put a little some hair like from rope on a soda bottle or so to make your dolly. Things like that. But those were things that we appreciated. Makiba doesn't like me to say it, but so I know she will be fretting when she hears this. But I said we would get our Christmas shoes like Christmas Eve afternoon or the day before, and it cost at that time $2.50. And by New Year's, well, in January sometime, we used to call it your toe begging bread because the soul coming out, coming through. So every time I would say, you're all too privileged, you have everything. thing, and we didn't grow up like that, but we were happy with our shoes like that. And she doesn't like
she doesn't like that very much, Matthew.
Every time you're coming back with the same thing.
So I'm getting the sense then, I mean, to a very large degree, that the way of life there wasn't terribly different from the way of life here, was it, based on the stories that you've heard?
That's true.
But I'm thinking, and you've mentioned, interestingly, there's some of the things that you did, the dolls on a bottle. I mean, that's interesting.
But my children don't know nothing about that. They know about getting dolls, real big dolls.
Barbies and
bicycle.
cans.
Every Christmas they got a tricycle, you know. Yeah.
So what sort of lessons did you learn though, from things like this? And I want to talk about some of the other things that you did, the games that you play, because I want to compare with what we're hearing from people who were born and raised here and the similarities and stuff. But for you, what lessons did you get from some of this?
That we learn to appreciate what we have, and don't be looking at the neighbor. Like for instance, we grew up with black and white TV, and when color TVs came in, we probably didn't have one, but the neighbor had one. That didn't make us jealous of the neighbor's color TV. We appreciated having a TV that at least we could look at the children programs and things like that. So I learned from that to appreciate my $2 50-cent shoe. It was nice. I was happy with it. There were certain clothes that were made from, you get it from the supermarket, the shops, the little shops. The chicken feed used to come in a cloth bag, these flower things. And your parents could have bought those things and make little shirts, little things that you wear in the yard, even little underwear, you know. So those are things that we appreciated. We were happy with them. So
you wear clothes made out of crocus bags?
Yeah. No, but they weren't really the brown crocus bag. They were a little flowered.
I see what they were cloth bags, cotton bags, but the stuff came in there.
Yeah.
So they used that.
They used that to make things for clothes. And my aunt was a seamstress. She sewed for people, so she sewed things for us. Also, we live in one area, in one yard, had these different houses. So my grandmother was in one, my aunt in one, my eldest sister was in one with her children, and my mother with us.
Living within your means.
Yes.
I'm recording this at the point where I'm just coming out of a leadership training session that deals with financial literacy, and the presenter was saying our grandmothers and great-grandmothers didn't know things like credit cards and stuff like that.
Exactly. I myself didn't know them until I'm a big woman. Yeah.
That credit meant you went to the shop.
You went to the shop, yes. Yeah. And the lady would write it down in a little book, what you took. And on payday that your mother will go and pay off her little debts. And then we start again, credit the food stuff and things like that.
Yeah, so it's a different world today.
Yes,
you know, just full of the plastic.
Today. Oh yes. Yes.
One of the things I learned a lot here as well from the people with whom I've been speaking is that there was this tremendous sense of community growing up, you know, that everyone looked at the backs of everyone else. What was it like?
The same, the same, that you had to respect your elder. And if you were doing something wrong and an older person saw you and they warned you or spoke to you about it, you don't be rude. And if you was rude and they go to your parents, well, then you know the punishment that was coming. They were even allowed to give you a little slap, behave yourself, you know. And when you go home, you'll get double because you should not have been rude.
You're right at home here, then.
Yeah.
Pretty much so.
Yeah.
We talked about the early customs, something else I've been hearing a lot of. People had to wake up early, go to the farms, clean the yards, do the chores before going to school and getting to school on time. Was it anything like this for you as well?
No, it was not with me. It wasn't like that. But with other people, yes, they had to get up early maybe and go to the farm. But we didn't have nothing like that. So, okay, if we get up in the morning and you had breakfast, somebody had to wash the dishes before we go to school. But we always would be able to go to school on time.
Did you butt heads with your other siblings? Because that's 10 of you is a lot.
Yeah, we got time, yes.
Tell us, share us some of the stories.
But it would be that your mother would intervene right away, or an older brother or sister that was home would intervene, because sometimes you're playing and you feel that you got cheated and a little slap or box pass, and then a little fight come. But then somebody would always intervene. My grandmother would always be under the tree if we're playing outside, so she would see it. When she called out, you had to listen. And if my mother wasn't home and my aunt is home, she would call out too, and you had to listen. So it would never get out of hand.
What are some of the games you played back then?
Well, I was always the type to stay in the house, sucking my finger, and so I wasn't much out. But they would, like I said, marbles, jacks. Marbles was for the boys, jacks was for the girls. We play ball, and you don't have a real bat, but you find a stick that you play ball with, a softball. The wheels, running with the wheels with a stick, the rim of the tire. Yeah. Playing that, even with tires running, play top, spinning tops, flying kites. Those were some of the things that we played.
I wonder if today's child understands, they say we played jacks. I wonder if they know what that means.
Yeah, not all. Some of them probably would.
So what were jacks?
Jacks were I think there was like a 5-prong thing with a ball. You throw the ball, you pick up one or you pick up two, things like that.
So you bounce the ball, and before the ball bounces again, you've got to pick up, so you have to catch the ball, so it doesn't bounce.
Yes.
So
until you pick up all, and then you win.
So it's hand-eye coordination and quick and the speed and all of that. So you played all of these games. So let me bring it to today, because I noticed I was here. It might have been last year, for Easter of last year, and there were these games that Makiba was involved in, pushing this tire thing. That's where she got it from.
Yeah.
she got the stories from you.
Yes. She learned a lot of things from those old time stories. Yes. Not only from me, but she heard them from other people too. Yeah.
When you sit with your children and you relive some of your days growing up, what do you tell them?
But I tell them especially to show them that you must appreciate what little you have and stop looking at just these big expensive things, and to be in all the style that is going around. Well, I got spoiled myself because I get in the style too. Well, Makiba is the type that would buy anything and give me, So I wouldn't say Shaniqua, not Shaniqua too. So before she heard it,
trouble in paradise. Yeah.
But I would always say, don't spoil the children, giving them everything that they want or everything that they see. You need to appreciate what you have, and when you're able or when you can, then you buy a little something extra, like for Christmas or so, but not always every time they see something and they want to order it. Tanti, can you order this for me? Mom, can you get the orders? They won't come to me, but they will.
Too strict.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you spend a lot of time outdoors? On the outside, playing and growing up, yeah.
No, not me. Like I said, I was always a child inside.
Yeah, sucking your fingers.
Sucking my finger. Yeah.
Yep. Did you get little taps on the?
Yeah, I got a lot of taps on my finger. Get it rubbed in aloes. Put on a sock on my hand. All kind of things. but it was hard, it was tough. But I loved my thumb.
It's the thumb that you...
Yeah, my thumb. My thumb, sucking my thumb and playing with my eyelid. And believe you me, up until today, I play with my eyelid. I had to stop sucking my thumb, but I do play with my eyelids still.
And so the remedies for trying to get you to stop sucking your thumb, or the fingers, as some other children do, some would do the second and third middle fingers.
Yeah.
Was the remedies were the same back then as we try now. Aloes.
Aloes, yeah. Ooh, that was a bit tough. Yeah, you would try to wash it off, and took some time to get the bitter taste off of it.
How old were you when you stopped?
I was a teenager just before I started secondary school. I had to. So I would say about 13, 14.
How did you manage to stop?
Well, I didn't want to be teased. So I had to control myself during the time in school. Then that was a longer hours in the secondary school than primary. So I had to be in school longer and couldn't suck my finger. So when you get home, my mother would say, well, in order to practice, you can't suck it at home either. So eventually I stopped. Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about what life was like at your primary school.
At the primary schools, it was, I went to primary school in Brazil. That's a countryside of Aruba where we reared up. And then we went to San Nicolas, which is one of the bigger towns. And so it was nice in Brazil. One way, it was close to school. We walked to school with friends, with brothers and sisters. And teachers were nice. You had to have, there was Catholic schools, so you had to have manners. And then when we moved to San Nicolas, then that was a bigger primary school, and so lots of children. And there again, I was shut in, wouldn't mingle much. So in the recess time, I just had one or two persons that I would sit with.
So you were not one to mingle a lot, right?
No.
Yeah. It's a different life when you grow up.
Yeah.
It's a completely different life as you grow up.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you went to secondary school.
Yes. In Aruba also. And that's where I met a lot of people from Statia, because in those days people came to Aruba for school. Well, they went to Curacao and so too. But at the secondary level is where I went to school with people like Nora, who else? Annika Marsden, Marcella, who was here.
So these were all schoolmates.
Yeah, I know them. Yeah. Gershon, I knew also. And then a few more, many more.
So they were your first introduction to Statia.
And I never thought that I would be living in Statia, because there were once in history class that the teacher showed the Windward Islands. And so the means of transportation was donkeys. And we had it laughing that look at how they used to go on donkeys on these dirt roads and so we would be laughing, and in the recess we would be teasing them and say, but that's where you all used to go on a donkey, and so I never thought that I would end up in Statia one day and then falling in love with it too.
Yeah.
I never rode a donkey though.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
So you're saying that when people like Marcella Marston and Gershon and the others whom you met at school in Aruba, when during those years they were still riding donkeys here?
I guess so, yes, because that was in 1968, I think. It's 68, 68, 69 that I went to that secondary school, and I met Marcelo was in the same class with me. And Annika and Nora were already there in the John Wesley College it was. Gershon them came after.
So you made friends, you literally made friends with them, did you?
Yeah.
So I've got to fast forward to coming to Statia. I mean, You're married into Statia, you said.
Into Statia.
I mean, I'm interested in the story, and I'm rather interested in the story and how it happened.
Well, it happened in St. Martin. I met him in St. Martin. He was working at the famous Risdon restaurant, and I was working at that time at the telephone company, Lance Radio it was then, and which turned into a hotel today. So going to the restaurant to get sandwiches on the way to work, and so I get to know him. And it developed.
You just ran into him.
Seeing him often, I guess.
Yeah, bitten by the station bug.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
it grew from there.
Yeah. But it's interesting because the last person that we aired the interview was teacher Olive Burkle, who herself got married to a station and came here 50 plus years ago, very much like you, and into the fabric of this thing. And so there seems to be about the station bug that brings you here and turn you into station. So once you came in here, tell us what it was like adjusting and what did.
It was tough adjusting because I used to work in St. Martin, and that was the federal government, and up to that time when we got married in 1973, women were not allowed to work for the federal government. So I had to give up my job because I got married. And so I was used to working, and then I came here and I wasn't working, so it was a bit boring in the beginning, and it took some time before I got a job with the government. And so getting into integrating into Statia wasn't so easy in the beginning, but yeah, as the years went by, and then he started the business, so things went different.
So tell us a little bit more about what it's like now. You've got a young child in Makiba who you brought over, and you can't work.
So I was a real housewife.
So you the first real housewife.
They call it.
The real housewife of Statia. That's.
And living at home by his family first, before we got one of those houses in Golden Rock that we get to live on our own, and you're your own woman in your house, and so.
How accepted were you?
Very.
Well? Very.
I'm still accepted in the family. It's still that's my family here.
And so you got married, moved here, and what is it that got you to really love Statia as much as you do?
I don't know, I just ended up loving it and living here, and it was because I'm the person that didn't like going out much or having that many friends, you know. So the quiet life here was good for me, and I think that's what made me love it so much. I had friends, I made some friends with the neighbors and with the family. And I did go out, did join one or two organizations too. And that's how I think I got integrated more into Statia. And then he was the one then get involved in politics, so I was he wasn't on a list, but he was a big supporter of certain people in the parties. And so I was also the woman behind the man there when he goes on the stage and so on the podium to talk.
All of this while raising first Makiba, and then you had Shaniqua.
She came almost 7 years later.
That's a little baby there.
Yeah.
And then I said at the top that you literally obliterated the glass ceiling when it comes to women's and fighting the cause of women. So I'm interested in that a bit, of some of the work that you did and how you did it.
Yeah. So when I started to work with the government here, I was at the finance department. And so I had 11 years working in the finance department when there was this break in government. The Democratic Party was in government, and Mr. Pompeo decided to leave and join with the other party, the opposition. And he saw a potential in me that I didn't know I had. And so he selected me to, when he joined, he didn't want to be the commissioner, so he selected me to be the commissioner. I'm going to say all of this later, but so by the time people hear this, I guess they'll hear me already today. And so there is where, so I went from in the morning going to work as a civil servant, and by noon the Island Council meeting had taken place, and this thing had happened, and these three men came into the office and said, Ingrid, well, after lunch you got to be back here at 2:30 in the governor's office. You'll be sworn in as commissioner. So I knew that it's something, I was told that it might happen, it was going to happen. And so I took on a challenge that I was not sure what it was all about. But those three men assured me that they will guide me and help me through with it. And the three men were Sir Newman Pompeo, Ralph Burkle, and Eric Henricus. All three of them deceased now. And they did.
What is it they saw in you?
I really would like to know. But you know, like I said, my husband at the time was supporting a party, and that was the Democratic Party, and supporting Mr. Newman Pompeo and Julian Woodley. They were two young people just starting in politics, and so these guys went out to help campaign for them. Probably that was the reason for Newman.
But you were never in the forefront. You were the supportive wife.
Yes.
But never in the forefront. So they must have seen something,
everybody
skills and abilities in you.
That I was behind the scene there. So I guess that was one of the motives. And I never thought that I could do it, but I took on the challenge anyway. And they stood beside me and they helped. They helped me until there was, you know, you're the little bird in the nest, and at a given time you grow your wings, get strong, and you could fly on your own. And then I had to fly on my own.
Yes. What were the early days as commissioner like?
It was tough because it was turbulent times. It was a break in government, so people don't like that. So it was tough. Some people from the party felt that I was a traitor, that I didn't say anything. And some people felt that it wasn't, that honor should not have been given to me either because I'm not from Statia. And so there were mixed feelings. But at the time, my coach, Mr. Henricus, would say, Ingrid, ignore what is being said and show them what you can do. And that's what I did. I learned from those who knew. The governors that I worked with, well, Mr. Sleesbeck was the first one that I worked with, and he was very understanding also and helped a lot, you know, explained to me a lot of things. And Henricus and myself would sit every day, every morning, we would sit and discuss things. So I was well trained and I felt comfortable after. In the beginning there was like a butterfly farm in my stomach, you know, especially when I had to go out to speak. I wasn't accustomed of that public speaking and so. But I eventually learned it, and I always say that I must have done something well, because every election after that had women on the list, and they were also elected. Because so I went in 1988, and 1991 was an election, and in that election, two of us were women who were elected at the same time, which is Nora Snake and myself. So, and I said it, my key was here. I said it on Statia Day, that I paved the way for the women, and I'm proud of the women, all of them who went into politics and made it as a commissioner, as an island council member. I'm proud of them.
Let me say that we are recording this on just mere hours before the funeral of Eric Henriquez, one of the people who you said took your hands and led you. So we're actually recording this on the very day of his funeral. So I've got to ask, the trailblazer, which is the words that I used in the introduction of this, paving the way for women and their election into politics, who would have thought that a young woman in Aruba who prefers to be stuck into the house sucking her thumb would have become a trailblazer for women in politics? As you think back about that, did you ever believe it, that you could be?
No, I didn't. I never expected it. I didn't believe it, and I did it. Took on the challenge. Didn't know, very nervous. Didn't know what I was getting into, but I grew into it, and I feel that I have proven that the women can do it, and that's how other women, so I broke the glass ceiling, as you said, and that other women get to follow suit and show that they can do it also. Especially after this man's world that we were in, that I had to give up my job even in 1973. I had to give up my job because a married woman couldn't work for the federal government. And then while we were working at the finance department, it was also that our colleagues, the married men, made a bigger salary than us, the married women. And so one of my colleagues, Mrs. Inez Shaw, took it to courts. She got married during the time because she was married before, but then it divorced and then married again. And so she didn't find it correct that because she's a woman and she's married, she can't get the same salary like the male. And she took it to court and won the case. And the judge didn't only do it for her or for Statia women, but he did it for all the women in the Netherlands Antilles. So she broke the glass ceiling also with that. You know, so because of all of that, it made me feel proud that I could do this as a commissioner, and then went in with another tough person like Nora in the Island Council, so we could be heard. We were opposition to each other, but we got along.
As you take a look at the current Island Council, where 3 of the 5 are women.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Oh, real good, because they overpowering the men now. It might be the men were more than us, Nora and I, but now the women are the majority in the council. And I pray every day that they do their best, and they are doing their best. So they have 2 new ones just gone in, and they went in. They took the ground running. There was no sitting down waiting to learn the ropes. They gone in and they are doing a good job. Yeah. So all of them are doing a good job. And before them had others like Astrid and Millie and all of those. I salute all of them.
Yeah, and they've got certainly the great role that you've played.
Yes.
in as we said, blazing the trail, opening the path, setting the road.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody would agree with me that I set the path for them, but it happened after that every party put a woman up in the top positions that on the list, top numbers, that they could be elected.
The last election, all 3 major parties led by women.
Led by women. I was also my party leader at the given moment, the St. Statians Alliance.
Do you sometimes think, gosh, go back and say, my parents would have been pretty pleased?
Oh yes, my mother was still alive and she was pretty pleased. She called me her Lady Di. There was the Prince Charles, his Lady Di, and Diana. And I was my mother's Lady Di. She was proud of me and didn't think that I would be somebody to get in that position either. And then after she thought that politics made me tough, too tough.
And of course, we were thinking, you mentioned the achievements.
Yeah.
Which would you think, as a commissioner, was your greatest achievement?
My baby was the women's desk, because as commissioner, people come to you with a lot of problems, especially women. And so you're like a mentor, a social worker then, you know. And so St. Martin had a safe haven, and I know that we had to help some people here to go to St. Martin. So I got in contact with St. Martin also to get information how they went about their starting their safe haven. So that was one of my babies that I wanted to do. Unfortunately, I lost the election before I could get it passed through the Island Council. Maybe it was done that they held it back for spite, you know, so it fell in one of their laps. And then when I was coming out, I also I put in for the job to work at it, and it took me some time before I could get it. But when I got the job to be the coordinator of the women's desk, I was very happy. And so I took off with it from there. You know, I was able to help women with many things. It wasn't only for housing or to get them to go to safe haven when they had a lot of problems, but it was also like a simple job letter they needed to write and didn't know how to go about it, and they could come to me and ask me to help. And I worked very close with the police department too, so when people had problems, they would call and I would speak with them, speak with the men and the women, do radio programs, show people because a lot of people didn't agree with the women's desk. The men were very upset, and so I would go to the radio with programs and talk about different issues that happens, and for instance, I spoke once about rape, and I said that even if you're married and your husband wants a relation and you say no, no is no, and if he forces you, that's rape. And it was a call-in program, and one guy called in and he said, Miss Whitfield, you and the police, you come to my house and tell me that is rape, you know. And he was very upset, but then he could come to my office and we talk about it, and he understood it. And sometimes I went to the homes to speak with the two parties together, and some men were very rough with me, you know, and feel like I could handle my business myself, I don't need you to come in here. But I would always say, listen, one day I must pass by the office and let's talk. And they came, and eventually men came to the office to say, I think you need to come home by us, you know, because things are not going right. So that macho-ness that they had before, it was getting less. They was understanding what the office was there for, what kind of help was there available, not only for women, but also for men. And then I asked, again, the Island Council to change the name from Women's Desk, so that men would feel included also to gender affairs or something like that. Yeah.
You spent what, about 20 years?
14 years in there, yeah, in the women's desk. That was my last 14 years working up until 2017 when I retired. Supposedly retired.
Supposedly, because we said you never did stop, no. Did you?
No.
So I am particularly interested in that comment you made during the radio discussion when you said if the woman says no, married or not, yeah, it's rape. And years later, as countries began to see it your way, and yeah, some countries began to enact legislation to protect women,
exactly,
and define this as rape, yeah, that you can be raped by your husband if you yes, say no. Yeah. Do you reflect on that and say, yes, we're getting somewhere?
Yes, yes. Yeah. We got somewhere. People start to understand. But we had gentleman's night, and that we would discuss things with the men also. Not only ladies' night. We decided let's start including the men. Like for instance, there's now a safe haven here, and I told them that it mustn't always be that the lady is taken out of the house with her children. Maybe sometimes we need to take out the man. Let him feel what it is that he has to come out of the house, can't go home there, and then you be speaking with both of them, counseling both sides till you get them so that they could go back together. It isn't always, because it's always the woman have to come out, she and her children. It must, maybe, I don't know if they will do that, but I remember speaking to one of the ministers who were here when they was just about to open that house, and I said that either we should get one for the men, or the men should be able to use this one that we have.
It's about gender right now.
Yes.
Wow. But so we have come a very long way, really, in terms of, as you said, the macho, male-dominated society, into where your political leaders are women.
We have equal rights.
Your teachers, your school principals, and the impact that they have. A lot of your entrepreneurs, business people, all of these are women.
Yeah.
Job done.
Job done.
But still a lot of work to do, obviously.
There's still a lot to do here. Yeah. And it's been done because the other women who are there now, they too see that there are things that have to be done. They're doing their own trailblazing also. Yeah. For the younger generation that is coming up, so they would know.
I realized that there's on Women's Day, the awards that are given here named after you.
Yeah, that was a surprise when they did that when I was retiring. That Women's Day in March, I retired in November, but it was that same year in March that they gave me that honor. That night I got the award, and then as of that night the award was named after me, and so it's still going up until today. And then after that I got another surprise when they named the center after me.
After you.
Yeah. So it was good. It's good.
Was it really surprising that they would name the center after you, after everything that you did?
Yeah, it was surprising. I never had it in my mind because they had put out a ad saying that people could put in a name, what they should name it.
Yes.
And then when the minister was coming to see it before it opened, he was here. They invited me to come to speak to him to say why I thought it was a good idea to have such a center here. So I did, and I remember telling him this was my baby. And I told those ladies also when they came to me, the new ones with the new department who's handling what I was doing in Women's Desk, I told them that was always my wish, that was my baby. So I don't know if that prompted them, but I never had it in my mind. I know they asked me to come in the parade and to say something. I said, but I already spoke. I told that to Carol, I already spoke by the minister. What am I going to say now by the parade? She said, say the same thing, that's all. So, never had that in mind until when they were making the introduction that they're going to say who's the name of the person, and they called my name. I was wondering why Mrs. Alida asked me to sit next to her that night. And when I heard that she went to school in Aruba, she was from Aruba, went to school at John Wesley College, and was born on the 7th of November, I grabbed Ali. I said, no, I can't believe this.
So up until that time, you had the clue?
I did not know. I thought it strange that night when we reached by the place that my children were there, children and grandchildren were there, and Carol told me, go ahead, you sit up front, and she sat behind me. And Ali, that was the one keep saying, come sit next to me. I didn't know anything. So it was a pleasant surprise. And I got my flowers while I'm living.
Do things like this bring tears to your eyes?
I don't get tears. When you see tears is because I have allergies, but I don't cry tears. I do get choked up, yes.
You're choked up a little bit.
Yeah. And yes, it's such a feeling that you get, and a pleasant surprise, I must say. Yeah.
You've also been pretty involved in a church.
Yeah.
Still are?
Still am, yeah. I'm busy right now with the preparation of we're going to dedicate the church on the 3rd of December. So the bishop will be here to bless the new church. The renovated church.
That's the Roman Catholic Church.
Yes.
It's Roman Catholic Church. So as you reminisce on life, started in Aruba, went to school there, moved to St. Martin, and then came to Statia. You said Statia is home. home is where the heart is, they say.
Yes. Yes, and my heart is here. Yeah.
Someone says to you, why do you love Statia as much? What would you say?
Well, besides that, I have made it my home. There's so much things that happen here that I was working with the federal government in St. Martin, but I started to work here in the finance department. I love that. I love finances, and I worked there for 11 years, got trainings to work there. And then I moved on to commissioner and get into politics. So all of that happened here in Station, and so that made me feel more at home. And this is my home because this is where they molded me into, Statia molded me into what I am today, who I became as a woman.
You know, far cry from the early days when people said, she's not from here, she shouldn't be commissioner. It's a far cry now.
Yeah, it's a far cry now. They accept me now.
You are Station through and through.
I'm a Station, true and true. It's almost in my DNA, I think.
And here I'm thinking it's in mind, and I've been a cave. Thank you so much, Ingie. I appreciate sitting and having a chat with you.
Thank you
and
for having me too.
Beautiful. And that's our program for this week. Don't forget to join us again next time for another edition of Chronicles of the Wise. And you know, it's just a fascinating discussion with Ingie here today and others like her. From all of us here at GIS Statia, goodbye.